Hi, Brian Miller here. If an extraterrestrial species ever encountered us, would we have anything meaningful to offer that species? I think that a lot of people, and I think that Dr. Loeb he's kind of the one that's talking about this the most, but I think a lot of people just generally assume that if we ever did have an encounter with some other species that traveled here, that we would just be these stupid apes, aggressive apes, doing a lot of dumb stuff, and we really wouldn't have a whole lot to offer. And I think that may not be entirely true. Again, I think we have to be careful when we're looking and thinking about the galactic other or extraterrestrial life. I think we have to try to be aware of assumptions that we might be bringing to this stuff. And, you can look at our species right now and find a lot of reasons to feel like we're doing a lot of, things that aren't great. Environmental stuff, blowing stuff up all the time, a lot of territorialism, aggression, extreme income inequality. I mean, you could go on to a lot of things, right, that seem really out of balance with our species, and you could really criticize us. But I think we should be careful about making assumptions because, and I'll just throw some possibilities out that I have considered. So for one thing, there's no reason why an insectoid species couldn't develop machine-making abilities and mathematical abilities and scientific interests, okay? But, let's say that some kind of insectoid creature, hypothetically, learned how to travel galactic distances, right, and learned how to come here. Well, they may not have an emotional life, right? I mean, they might live in this really weird reality that's so foreign to us, and they could look at us and they may not have things like music or theater or all of the clothes that we wear or all the varieties of culture. I mean, there's really no reason why there couldn't be species that just have monoculture and maybe have a lack of emotional life or something. I mean, who knows? And maybe some of these members of this species could look at us and see that we're doing something that they don't know how to do. And I guess what I'm throwing out there is this possibility to you. I know that a lot of times when we look at this issue of extraterrestrial life, it's almost like if we think of a species that could come here, it's almost like we have this inferiority complex because we look around our own technology and it seems so simple and primitive compared to some being that could come here from another planet. But I think that we should bear in mind that having advanced technology may not really solve all the problems and mysteries of life, and that perhaps any species that is subject to the laws of birth and death can learn from any other species that is operating in the same field. So in other words, even if you had some advanced galactic species and say they lived very long lifetimes and they were very wise, but they were still going to die at some point in time, they still at some level face some of the same realities of life that we do. And we may have things as to how we evolved and how we learned that could be of use to other species and could give them something to help them grow. I mean, it's possible, for instance, that very few simian species ever get to the level that we got to. I mean, this could be a rare thing for a species like this to get to this level. We just don't know, and we would never know anything about that unless we had things to compare it with, right? So I guess my point is this, is that one of the things that I think we need to be careful about as we go forward is getting latched onto our assumptions. And I really think that if you start thinking about extraterrestrial life and you start almost looking at things from this galactic perspective, one of the things that it challenges us to do is to sort of realize how many things we take for granted that are just our human biases. And we should keep our human biases. They're what make us human. We keep our culture. We keep who we are. We keep the things that we like to do. But realize that if we're thinking in this broader perspective and we're really taking extraterrestrial life seriously, that we probably should question a lot of these assumptions. And that we shouldn't just assume that we would have nothing to offer an advanced technological extraterrestrial species. Maybe humans have a little bit more than we realize sometimes.